I'm Krystal Craig from Intero restaurant, working today in the Maiden kitchen.
I'm Charles Craig with Sprinkles, and I'm lucky to be working with my friend Krystal here. We're going to do some wonderful things with an Italian orange olive oil cake.
And I'm ready to get going when you are.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so here we are. We're going to go ahead and make our mandarin orange extra virgin olive oil cake. With something like a cupcake, there's going to be two big things that can screw up our recipe, and that's inaccurate measurements or overworking it once we get the flour in there and developing the gluten's too strong, and it can turn it tough, chewy, and we don't want that. So we're going to start off with granulated sugar. I like to use pure cane sugar. Extra virgin is very important. It adds a very specific flavor. If we don't use extra virgin, it's not the first press. You lose flavor, you lose color, texture, everything. So it's very important for this recipe specifically that we use the extra virgin. Understand that the first stage with the oil and the sugar is going to be our most important stage to really work this. It allows us the time to emulsify the sugar and the oil together. We've got the olive oil and the sugar starting to come together. I'm going to go ahead and add our mandarin orange zest to this. It's important that this has just been zested recently because you don't want to lose the oils, you don't want it to dry out, oxidize, change color. We want to protect this as much as we can. And then we're going to work that in with the olive oil and the sugar a little bit to really get the flavor of the orange zest to come out in it and combine before we go ahead and add the egg. And again, every time I start with stir it first until it combines, and then I speed it up a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and scrape the paddle off pretty much at every inclusion just to make sure we get any loose ingredients in the mix. Next inclusion we have is our egg whites. All right, again, you wanna start with the stir setting so you don't send olive oil and egg flying everywhere. Okay, so at this point we have emulsified our sugars. You can smell the orange coming out. You can smell the extra virgin olive oil. The egg white is in there. We're gonna go ahead and add all of our flour now. We'll kick it up one notch for probably about 20 seconds. We'll lower the bowl, we'll scrape it, kick it back up, ready to portion. Smooth, pretty, you can see all that zest in there. A little bit of the color from the olive oil coming through. And we're ready to scoop. Flatten out the sides. I tap it on there to get a little rid of any air bubbles to make sure I got a nice even portion. I want to make sure it's nice and flat. I mean, don't worry, you make a little bit of mess like I did, you can always come back later and wipe that off with a towel. Okay, we've made the batter, we got it portioned up, we're ready to go in the oven. Couple things to remember, we're going to want to go ahead and bake at 285 if you have a convection oven. And if you don't have a convection oven, I recommend about 25 degrees stronger, so 310. You're going to want to cook these for about 22 minutes, but you're going to want to rotate it about 15. And they may take another minute or two. The trick is when you touch the center of the cupcake, if it bounces back, it's done. If it leaves a fingerprint, it needs another minute or two. Friend Krystal show us how to make that delicious caramel. It's so good.
Oh, caramel time. We are going to be making the caramel to go in the cupcakes. The recipe that you will find will have enough of the ingredients to make enough for the amount of cupcakes that you're making. We're going to start with just granulated sugar. You want to go ahead and bring that into the pot. Let that go around, and then I go ahead and add a little bit of water to cover it. So we call wet caramel. And all this will kind of help you at home not to burn caramel. I do recommend that you slice and use a little bit of lemon juice. It'll actually add a little bit of acid to help keep that broken up and from crystallizing as well. And if you get a little seed in there, you just pull it out with a spoon. This is the waiting part. Oh, I mean like really long waiting part. You can start swirling that amber color around just to let it evenly disperse, but you'll want to keep it cooking. So your caramel will keep going up in temperature. Make sure that it doesn't quite reach at 350. That gets a little bit high. You can start to turn it down Once you have a really nice dark color, because it will lighten up once you add ingredients, you want to go ahead and add in butter and turn that all the way off. That's what I do. Just let that butter kind of simmer in there. It'll actually stop making it cook. Just swirl it around. It's always really surprising to me how long it takes for the butter to melt down, even though that sugar is really like molten hot. So it's kind of fun to watch. Once that butter's almost melted all the way down, this is actually when I add in salt. So you can kind of grab the salt, and it's more than you think it's gonna be. Then you can add your cream. Make sure that your cream is actually room temp. It's still gonna kind of bubble up a little bit. That was just the cream top. It's cream top cream. And kind of gently stir as you're doing this. Same thing, it's actually always more cream than you think. It starts to look really, really liquidy, but as it cooks down, it'll harden up pretty quickly.
Okay, so make sure you have a towel or a hot pad. I can't help it, I'm kind of used to using a towel. But we're gonna go ahead and pull these out. Remember we talked about the bounce back? So you can see how they bounce back when I push. We're gonna let them sit here. We're gonna let them rest a minute, because if you try and fill a hot cupcake with caramel sauce, it just seeps out. And if you put frosting on it, it slides off. So we're gonna let them chill for a minute. Probably, honestly, about 30 to 45 minutes, and then they should be ready for the next step of the process. Cupcakes have rested. They're a great temperature to work with now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna core them with an apple core. See, it's even got an apple on it. All right, works really well. You're gonna go in on top, you're gonna target dead center, although I'm not usually good. And then notice we turn it back and forth, right? You don't want to just plunge down. You'll rip the cupcake up. You'll lose structural integrity, because we still want to frost these, right? So there has to be integrity. So you see how it's spinning kind of freely now? I feel like I got it. We're going to pull it out. Boom.
Well, and kind of same thing, how you want to make sure that the cupcake is cool. You also want to make sure that your caramel sauce is cool. And I know we will go over that. But you would want to start at the bottom, and you want to hold it there and let it just fill up. You want to let it go a little bit higher than the top, because it is going to sink down, just like when we fill molds of chocolate. So now that we've finished baking the cupcakes and filling them with caramel, it is time to frost.
Maybe even round it a touch. Go dead center. We cover up as much of that cupcake edge as possible. Again, that first bite should have this luxurious, sweet, rich white chocolate flavor coming through. But we also want to make sure that, say you're having a party, this is probably the last thing you're going to touch, right? You're going to have some cocktails and appetizers. Well, okay, so I'm going to sneak in and have one right away. But
well, I think that we did an awesome job.
that's great.
Those look great.
I'm telling you.
And delicious.
For a first time, yeah, I'm ready to, if you need a gig, we're hiring, no problem. No, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That,
it was a pleasure.
no, that caramel's awesome. I love it.